If an empath still has no contact with a narcissist, here's what happens. Have you ever been caught in a relationship that drained you emotionally, leaving you feeling like a shell of who you once were? If you've been involved with a narcissist and wondered what would happen if you, an empath, decided to go completely no contact, then you are in the right place. It's not just a simple act of cutting off communication. It's a profound, transformative journey with both emotional and psychological implications that could alter your life forever. The idea of going no contact with a narcissist is both terrifying and liberating. It's terrifying because narcissists are masters of manipulation, and the act of leaving can feel like stepping off a cliff. But it's also liberating because, for the first time, you may start to reclaim your life, your identity, and your peace of mind. The struggle, however, is real. The internal battle that an empath faces when choosing to sever ties with a narcissist is often fraught with doubt, guilt, and emotional turmoil. But what happens after you make that difficult decision? What shifts take place within you, and how do these changes impact the narcissist? In this video, we will delve into the psychological journey both the empath and the narcissist undergo when the no-contact rule is enforced. The purpose is not only to understand the aftermath, but to give you the tools to navigate your own healing process should you ever find yourself in this difficult position. Let's start with the basics, and then explore the nuanced psychological shifts that follow. The early stages, the decision to go no contact. The decision to go no contact is not one that comes easily for an empath. Empaths are people who are highly sensitive to the emotions of others and often feel compelled to help, heal, or care for those around them, especially those in emotional distress. Narcissists, by contrast, are often emotionally manipulative, self-centered individuals who seek to control and dominate their relationships, leaving their partners emotionally drained. For an empath, the idea of walking away from someone they once loved or cared for can bring on a profound sense of guilt. They may feel like they are abandoning the narcissist, especially if the narcissist plays the victim or presents themselves as needing help. The empath may also feel like they are losing a connection that once felt important, even if it was toxic. They may worry about the long-term consequences, questioning whether they're making the right decision. Despite the challenges, the decision to cut ties often comes after repeated cycles of emotional abuse, manipulation, and betrayal. For the empath, this decision is not a sudden act. It's a culmination of many small moments where the empath realizes they have given all they can to the relationship without receiving anything in return. Eventually, the weight of the relationship becomes too heavy to carry, and the empath decides that their own well-being must take precedence. The aftermath, emotional repercussions for the empath. Once the no-contact boundary is set, the empath will experience a range of emotions, some of which may be unexpected. In the immediate aftermath, there is often a sense of relief, like taking a breath after holding it for far too long. Finally, there is space to think clearly and reflect on the damage done. The emotional toll of being involved with a narcissist can be immense, leaving the empath feeling drained, confused, and disconnected from themselves. The relief comes from the simple fact that the narcissist is no longer around to drain them or keep them in a constant state of emotional turmoil. However, this relief can be short-lived. The empath may find themselves grappling with guilt, doubt, and loneliness. The narcissist, having been a central figure in the empath's life, will undoubtedly occupy space in their thoughts, even after the relationship is over. This is especially true if the narcissist resorted to tactics like love bombing or promises of change, which can make it even harder for the empath to move on. The empath may question whether they made the right decision or if they've hurt the narcissist by cutting them off. Despite these feelings, the no-contact decision is crucial for the empath's healing journey. The narcissist's behavior often reinforces the empath's deep-rooted fears of inadequacy, abandonment, and rejection. By going no contact, the empath begins to break free from this cycle, allowing themselves time and space to rediscover who they are outside of the toxic relationship. During this time, the empath may also experience what is known as a trauma bond. This is a psychological response where the empath feels attached to the narcissist even after they've been hurt, due to the unpredictable cycles of emotional highs and lows that narcissistic relationships often create. The empath may even begin to miss the narcissist's affection or manipulation, causing them to second-guess their decision. This is why no contact is so important. It helps to break the trauma bond by removing the narcissist from the empath's life entirely, allowing the empath the clarity needed to heal. The narcissist's response to the no-contact rule. When an empath goes no contact with a narcissist, the narcissist typically reacts in one of two ways, either by trying to re-establish control or by disappearing entirely. Both reactions are rooted in the narcissist's need for validation and their inability to tolerate rejection. In the first scenario, the narcissist may try to reassert control over the empath. They might use guilt, manipulation, or anger to get the empath to respond. Narcissists are adept at using emotional manipulation to play on the empath's fears and insecurities. They may bombard the empath with messages, phone calls, or even show up uninvited, all in an attempt to make the empath feel responsible for their emotional state. Narcissists thrive on attention, and when an empath refuses to give them that validation, it can feel like a direct assault on their sense of self-worth. The narcissist might also resort to smear campaigns, spreading lies, or telling others that the empath is the one who is in the wrong. In the second scenario, the narcissist may completely disappear. This is known as ghosting, and it happens when the narcissist decides to withdraw attention from the empath in a way that is intended to punish or confuse them. The narcissist might go silent, leaving the empath to wonder if they've been forgotten or if something went wrong. This sudden absence can leave the empath in a state of emotional confusion, longing for closure or explanation. Either response serves the same purpose for the narcissist: to regain control over the empath. The narcissist is typically unable to respect boundaries and will do whatever it takes to maintain the upper hand in the relationship, even if it means using tactics like guilt-tripping, playing the victim, or creating confusion. The long-term impact on the empath. The long-term effects of going no contact with a narcissist can be both empowering and deeply challenging. As time passes, the empath begins to slowly rebuild their life, re-establishing their sense of self and self-worth. The weight of emotional turmoil and manipulation that once clouded their thoughts begins to lift, and for the first time in what might feel like a long time, the empath is able to think clearly. Without the constant emotional upheaval and gaslighting from the narcissist, the empath starts to see things in a new light, objectively, and without the fog that used to distort their perception of reality. They start to recognize the freedom they have gained from stepping away from the toxicity. For the first time, they may feel like they can breathe deeply, without the underlying sense of anxiety that often accompanies a relationship with a narcissist. With this clarity, the empath is able to focus more on their own personal goals and desires, pursuing passions they might have put on hold for the sake of the relationship. They can also put more energy into building or nurturing healthy, supportive relationships that encourage their growth. For the first time, they might feel truly seen and appreciated by others who are capable of mutual care and respect. Over time, The empath begins to build a life that is centered around their own well-being, one where their needs and desires are no longer disregarded. However, this newfound empowerment doesn't come without its challenges. The healing process, though transformative, is rarely linear. There will be moments of regression, times when the empath finds themselves doubting the decision they made. The weight of that doubt might feel heavy, especially in the quiet moments when the empath finds themselves alone with their thoughts. They might wonder if they should have stayed, if there was something more they could have done, or if they made the wrong decision altogether. These doubts are natural, especially considering how deeply the narcissist's manipulation had ingrained itself in their perception of reality. The empath may also find themselves encountering emotional triggers that take them by surprise. Something as simple as a song, a place, or a particular word can bring the narcissist to the forefront of their mind, causing old wounds to resurface. These triggers can cause the empath to revisit the emotional pain they worked so hard to leave behind. What makes this period particularly difficult is that it forces the empath to confront these unresolved feelings. At times, it may feel like the emotional scars will never fully heal, and the empath might wonder if they will ever truly feel whole again. But as time goes on, and the empath continues to rebuild their emotional foundation, they will gradually come to trust their own judgment once more. This trust in themselves becomes an essential part of the healing process. They begin to recognize that the doubt they feel is simply a phase, and that the clarity they've started to experience is a reflection of their strength. The empath learns to differentiate between the emotional turmoil caused by the narcissist's manipulation and their own intuition, slowly regaining control over their own mind and emotions. The healing process is messy and complex, but as time progresses, the empath begins to see the undeniable benefits of going no contact. Perhaps the most important and transformative shift that happens during this period of recovery is that the empath begins to gain a deeper understanding of the narcissistic relationship and how it impacted them. They begin to connect the dots, recognizing the subtle and not so subtle manipulations and the patterns of emotional abuse that were present in the relationship. These realizations, which might have been difficult to see while they were still entangled with the narcissist, become a powerful tool for healing. The empath can now look back with a sense of clarity and detachment, seeing the toxic behaviors for what they were, and understanding how deeply they affected their sense of self-worth. This awareness is crucial because it allows the empath to let go of the guilt and confusion that may have lingered after the separation. They no longer blame themselves for the dysfunction of the relationship. Instead, they understand that the manipulation, the emotional roller coaster, and the pain they experienced were not signs of their own weakness or inadequacy, but a reflection of the narcissist's behavior. The decision to go no contact becomes a powerful affirmation of their own worth, and the empath starts to realize that they didn't just walk away, they protected themselves. They see that their choice to cut ties was not a form of abandonment, but an act of self-preservation, an essential step in reclaiming their autonomy and emotional health. Ultimately, this long-term process of healing and self-discovery helps the empath regain a sense of empowerment that was once lost. While the road may be challenging, it is one that leads to emotional independence, deeper self-awareness, and the capacity to foster healthier relationships in the future. The empath learns that their worth is not tied to the approval or validation of the narcissist, and that they are capable of living a full, meaningful life without the constant drain of toxic relationships. As time passes, they come to realize that going no contact wasn't just about cutting off the narcissist. It was about re-establishing their own identity, rebuilding their sense of self-worth, and stepping into a future where they are free to flourish. Conclusion: the power of no contact. Going no contact with a narcissist is not an easy decision. It requires immense strength, self-awareness, and a deep understanding of one's own worth. For empaths, this journey is one of self-healing and rediscovery. It's a decision that may be fraught with emotional challenges, but it is also a necessary step in reclaiming one's life from the toxic grip of a narcissist. So, if you are an empath considering going no contact with a narcissist, remember that the aftermath will not be without its struggles, but the rewards are immense. You will rediscover your power, your peace, and your sense of self. You'll find that the world outside of the narcissist's influence is a much brighter place, one where you can finally thrive. Thank you for taking the time to explore this important topic with us. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Let's spread the message of healing and empowerment for empaths everywhere.
Why do narcissists suffer so much when they are old? Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's video, and I'm really happy that you could join me. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that doesn't often get discussed but is fascinating and, at the same time, quite sad. We'll be exploring why narcissists tend to suffer so much when they get older. This is something many people don't think about, but when you start to unpack it, you realize how deeply it ties into human nature, psychology, and the inevitable effects of aging. So let's get comfortable and dig into this complex issue together. To begin, let's remind ourselves what narcissism really is. At its core, narcissism is a personality trait, and in some cases, a disorder known as Narcissistic Personality Disorder, NPD. Narcissists typically believe they are superior to others. They often demand excessive attention, admiration, and validation, yet paradoxically, they are incredibly fragile underneath their confident facade. They need others to reflect back their self-worth, and their sense of identity is built upon these external sources of validation. For most of their lives, many narcissists can manage to function within society by leveraging their charm, manipulation skills, and cultivated image of confidence and success. They often surround themselves with people who feed their ego, whether it's in romantic relationships, friendships, or even professional settings. In many cases, they thrive in environments that allow them to shine. But what we see in the youth or middle-aged years of a narcissist is often just a facade, an image that conceals the deep, underlying insecurity and lack of self-love. It's an empty core, constantly seeking to be filled from the outside. Now, why do narcissists suffer so much as they age? It comes down to the fragile nature of their self-worth and their reliance on external validation. Narcissists spend their entire lives depending on external factors, whether it's their physical appearance, their career achievements, or their social status. These are the very things that age takes away, one by one. When narcissists enter the later stages of life, they start to lose the superficial markers that once defined their worth, and they are ill-equipped to handle this because they haven't developed the internal resources, emotional depth, or meaningful relationships that would allow them to adapt to these changes gracefully. One of the most obvious factors is the physical aging process. Many narcissists take great pride in their appearance. They rely on their looks to garner attention and admiration, whether it's their youthful beauty, their stylish appearance, or their physical fitness. However, as we all know, time takes a toll on the body. Wrinkles form, hair turns gray, and the body doesn't work the way it used to. For most people, this can be a difficult transition, but it's especially devastating for narcissists. Their physical appearance, which may have been a primary source of their validation, begins to fade, and they find themselves losing control over the very thing that gave them power. For narcissists, aging is not just a natural part of life. It feels like an existential threat. They've invested so much of their identity in their appearance that the natural process of aging feels like an attack on their sense of self. They might try to fight it with plastic surgery, intense fitness regimens, or obsessive grooming, but these efforts can only go so far. As the signs of aging become more and more apparent, they may become increasingly anxious, depressed, or even angry. The body, which once served as a source of admiration and attention, becomes a source of shame and frustration. Career success is another area where narcissists often experience intense suffering as they age. Narcissists tend to measure their self-worth based on external achievements, job titles, professional accolades, or financial success. In their younger years, they may have been able to climb the corporate ladder, amassing status and recognition along the way. But as they grow older, their professional relevance may start to wane. Younger, more ambitious individuals begin to take their place, and their career accomplishments, once a point of pride, may no longer seem as impressive. For a narcissist, this is devastating. Their professional identity, which they've built their ego around, starts to unravel. If they've spent their entire lives viewing success as a zero-sum game, where they must always be the best, the most admired, and the most powerful, then aging becomes a direct assault on their value as a human being. Retirement, in particular, can be extremely challenging for narcissists because it represents the loss of their professional identity and the admiration that came with it. They may struggle to find meaning outside of their work, and the loss of status can feel unbearable. Another critical aspect of why narcissists suffer so much as they age is the deterioration of their personal relationships. Narcissists often have a transactional approach to relationships. They view people as sources of narcissistic supply, meaning that they use others for admiration, validation, and attention. Over time, this behavior can strain or even destroy their relationships. Friends, family members, and romantic partners may grow tired of being used and manipulated, eventually distancing themselves from the narcissist. In the early stages of life, narcissists may be able to find new sources of narcissistic supply to replace those who have left, but as they grow older, this becomes more difficult. Their charm and charisma may not work as well as they used to, and they may find that people are less willing to put up with their self-centered behavior. As their social circle shrinks, narcissists can become increasingly isolated, and they are often left without the deep, meaningful connections that sustain most people through the later stages of life. Loneliness can set in, and for someone who thrives on the attention of others, this is a particularly painful experience. Aging also forces narcissists to confront something they spent their entire lives avoiding: vulnerability. Narcissists hate feeling weak or dependent. They pride themselves on their perceived superiority and control, but aging strips away that control in ways they can't ignore. Health problems, declining energy, and the need for assistance from others are all part of the aging process. For a narcissist, being vulnerable is deeply threatening because it goes against everything they've built their identity around. This loss of control can trigger feelings of helplessness and rage. They may lash out at those around them, blaming others for their declining state. In some cases, they may even sink into deep despair, as they can no longer maintain the image of invincibility they once projected. The fear of death, which most people learn to accept and cope with over time, can become a source of constant anxiety for narcissists, who see it as the ultimate loss of control and the ultimate insult to their ego. Another key reason why narcissists suffer so much in old age is their lack of emotional resilience. Throughout their lives, narcissists often avoid dealing with their emotions in a healthy way. They suppress feelings of insecurity, fear, and inadequacy by focusing on external achievements and validation. They haven't developed the emotional tools that help people cope with life's inevitable challenges, like aging, loss, and disappointment. When they reach old age and are forced to confront these realities, they don't have the emotional depth or coping mechanisms to handle them. The very things they've avoided all their lives, feelings of vulnerability, loss, and insignificance come rushing to the surface. This can lead to a sense of despair or even depression, as they realize they've spent their lives chasing superficial goals that no longer bring them happiness or fulfillment. Interestingly, some of the very traits that allowed narcissists to thrive in their younger years, charm, manipulation, and an inflated sense of self, become liabilities as they age. People may have once admired their confidence and ambition, but as they get older, these traits may come across as arrogance, entitlement, and an inability to adapt. The narcissist's inability to change or grow emotionally can alienate them from those around them, leaving them increasingly